You didn't stumble into this message by accident. The probability of you finding these words at this precise moment, out of infinite digital noise, is astronomically small, yet here you are. That alone is your first signal. Something in the quantum field arranged this rendezvous because your consciousness is standing on the verge of a phase transition and the universe refuses to let you miss it. You've felt it, haven't you? The tug of resistance returning again and again, like waves pushing you back from a shore you've almost reached. Every time you stretch toward a breakthrough, some unseen current pulls at your ankles, whispering doubts, tightening your chest, distorting time itself. You tell yourself, I should be past this by now, and yet the same loops resurface. But what if I told you this is not failure? What if resistance itself is the evidence that the collapse point is near, that the field is vibrating so intensely around you that the old frequencies are destabilizing? Imagine particles in superposition, hovering in infinite possibility. The moment they're observed, the wave collapses, locking them into one singular form. Your life is operating under the same physics. Right now, your dreams and your destiny exist in multiple states, potential realities entangled with your consciousness. Every act of faith you've held, every night you've chosen to believe, has been narrowing the field. And resistance? Resistance is the trembling of the old reality as it begins to disintegrate. It's the rumble before collapse, the static before clarity, the echo before the birth cry of a new timeline. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. The universe tests coherence by pressing on your weakest points, not to break you, but to ensure you can hold the vibration of what you're about to receive. Think of a bridge being tested before people are allowed to walk across it. Pressure is applied, weight is distributed, and the structure either collapses or proves itself unshakable. Resistance is the weight testing your frequency. If it keeps returning, it's because you are nearing the point where collapse transforms into emergence. Tonight, before you sleep, the field is opening, and sleep itself is the portal. Neuroscientists call it the hypnagogic state, that twilight between waking and dreaming, when brainwaves slow and consciousness drifts into the theta range. Mystics have known it for centuries as the gateway of visions. In this space, your subconscious is most impressionable, and the quantum field is most receptive. Every thought, every feeling you carry into that liminal state broadcasts a frequency that imprints directly onto your DNA, restructuring your inner coding while your body rests. That is why you're here right now. To understand that the resistance you've been battling all day is not your enemy, it's your proof. Because when resistance peaks, collapse is imminent. The old wave is decaying, and the new signal is demanding to be born. And when you close your eyes tonight, your entire field will decide which version of you emerges on the other side of sleep. Take a deep breath. Feel the truth of this settling into your cells. You're not lost in a loop. You're standing at the event horizon of transformation, and the returning resistance is the sound of reality breaking open, preparing to reorganize around your highest coherence. It begins subtly, almost like a shadow passing across the edges of your life. You tell yourself you're done with old patterns, but then without warning you wake up inside them again. The same arguments replay in different relationships. The same financial strain loops with new faces, new jobs, new opportunities. Even the scenery changes, yet the script feels eerily familiar. You've noticed the sensation of déjà vu, haven't you? That haunting recognition, like you've walked this path before, spoken these words before, even breathed this moment before. It isn't your imagination, it's the quantum feedback loop, a resonance echo created when consciousness keeps circling the same energetic frequency. Your nervous system has been trained, programmed almost like a radio dial, to replay the same station of scarcity, doubt, or longing, even when your mind swears you've chosen differently. This is the first diagnosis. You are not broken. You are coherent with the signal you've been entangled with for years. Reality is simply mirroring your vibrational signature, like water reflecting the shape of the stone that disturbs its surface. Every recurring resistance, every déjà vu spiral, is the quantum field reminding you haven't shifted the root frequency yet. Think about how time has felt lately. Distorted, days stretching like elastic, nights collapsing into a blur. Sometimes you blink and a week vanishes. Other times, a single hour feels unbearable, dense with weight you can't explain. This is temporal distortion, another sign you're approaching collapse. Physicists know that time isn't absolute. It bends, folds, stretches under different frequencies of energy. Your consciousness is tugging at the fabric of time, pushing against the inertia of your old identity, and the tension creates distortions you feel in your bones. You might find yourself caught in thought spirals at 2 a.m. where minutes feel endless, as though you're trapped outside the flow. Or perhaps you've felt entire days evaporate while you swear you've barely moved. This is not failure. This is the quantum equivalent of turbulence before breakthrough. The vibration of a rocket as it pushes through the atmosphere, rattling under pressure until it pierces into weightless freedom. Here's the truth hidden beneath the discomfort. Resistance returns not because you're cursed, but because you're close. If the loop feels unbearable, it's because the wave is already collapsing. The field is trying to synchronize you with a higher frequency, but your old identity is clinging to coherence it no longer deserves. And so you feel pulled in two directions, your higher self vibrating forward, your old self resisting collapse. Most people misinterpret this stage. They assume repetition means stagnation. They say, nothing is changing, I'm stuck. But look deeper. Patterns repeat at accelerated speed when they're about to dissolve. Haven't you noticed that what used to take years to resurface now happens in weeks? What took weeks now happens in days. This compression is not punishment, it's a quickening. The loops are tightening because your field is squeezing out every last fragment of incoherence. The universe won't let you carry these echoes into the timeline that's opening. You feel it in your body too, don't you? The tightness in your chest before sleep, the restless legs, the shallow breath, the sense of something unresolved pressing against your ribcage. That is not random anxiety. That is cellular memory being burned out of your nervous system. Your DNA has been storing imprints of these patterns like grooves in a record, and now the needle is lifting. But as the grooves resist erasure, they create friction. That friction feels like resistance. That resistance feels like the past repeating. And yet, it is the final dissolve. Think of a cocoon before the butterfly emerges. Inside, the caterpillar doesn't simply grow wings, it liquefies. Its old identity literally breaks down into chaos before a new pattern emerges. If you could hear it, you'd mistake the sounds for destruction. But hidden in the chaos is a blueprint, a set of imaginal cells that know exactly how to form wings. You are in that liquefaction now. The loops, the déjà vu, the distorted time, they are signs that the old structure is dissolving, even if it feels like suffocation. The worst mistake you can make is believing the loop means failure. It does not. It means the field is preparing to collapse into coherence. Resistance keeps returning because you are vibrating so intensely that the old signal cannot hold. You're experiencing what scientists call constructive and destructive interference, the overlapping of waves that sometimes amplify, sometimes cancel. Your old identity waves and your emerging identity waves are colliding. The noise you feel, the distortion you live, is the interference pattern of transformation. And if you lean into it, if you stop fighting the return of resistance and instead read it as signal, you will see the hidden prophecy inside it. Breakthrough is imminent. Your mind may resist this truth. It wants a neat, linear story, progress without collapse, growth without pressure. But quantum reality doesn't work that way. Breakthrough comes through collapse. Emergence comes through dissolution. Patterns accelerate not to punish you, but to push you past your threshold until you can no longer deny the truth. You're not circling, you're spiraling upward. Take a moment here. Let yourself admit that the déjà vu you've been fearing is not endless recurrence. It is contraction before birth. Every distorted second, every suffocating loop, every restless night, it all points to one thing. The wave is trembling on the edge of collapse. And when it collapses, you won't just wake up in the same life rearranged. You'll wake up in a timeline that feels eerily familiar yet utterly new, because it is the one you've been gestating all along. Now that you've recognized the loop, the déjà vu, the distortion, it's time to see what's really happening beneath the surface. Because what looks like chaos is actually the intelligence of the quantum field upgrading you. The upgrade never arrives in silence. It speaks through resistance, through static, through the dismantling of everything you once called stable. Think of your body as both an antenna and a receiver. Every cell, every strand of DNA is tuned to frequencies that broadcast who you believe yourself to be. Scientists once called much of DNA junk, unable to decode its purpose. But what if that so-called junk is actually dormant circuitry, a hidden motherboard designed to activate under the right conditions when coherence with higher frequencies demands it? Mystics have been whispering this for centuries. Your body is a quantum instrument, waiting for alignment to unlock its latent codes. And alignment doesn't come through ease alone. It comes through friction, pressure, resistance. Why? Because only pressure reveals whether the old coding is strong enough to hold the higher voltage of awakening. Each time resistance returns, it's not proof that you've failed. It's proof that the voltage is rising, the current is intensifying, the upgrade is underway. Quantum physics tells us that energy can neither be created nor destroyed, it only transforms. What you call obstacles are transformations in motion. Energy patterns that once anchored you to scarcity, fear, or limitation are being shaken loose, dismantled at the subatomic level. This dismantling feels like panic, like old patterns resurfacing, like relationships stretching to breaking point. But the science is clear. Particles in superposition vibrate in all possible states until collapse forces a choice. You are standing in that state right now, your consciousness vibrating between the old frequency and the new one, waiting for collapse to lock the outcome. And collapse is not random. Collapse responds to coherence. When you align your emotional frequency, your thoughts, your embodied trust, you send a clear signal to the field. The field responds by collapsing infinite potentials into the one timeline that matches your coherence. This is the upgrade. To stop broadcasting incoherent static and to begin vibrating as the one who has already crossed the threshold. Mystics call this awakening. Physicists call it coherence. Biologists call it epigenetics, the ability of your internal environment to literally rewrite how your DNA expresses itself. Call it whatever language resonates with you, but the effect is the same. Your biology is listening to your frequency. Your cells are rearranging under the influence of the thoughts you stabilize, the emotions you sustain, the visions you dare to believe. Consider the role of morphic resonance, a theory proposed by Rupert Sheldrake, suggesting that once a pattern is established in nature, it becomes easier for that pattern to repeat, not just for you, but for all who are connected to the field. When you upgrade your frequency, you're not just transforming yourself, you're contributing to the global field of coherence, making it easier for others to awaken too. That is why your upgrade feels so urgent, so heavy, because it isn't only yours, it's humanity's. Notice the sensations that accompany this process, the restlessness in your body, the surges of energy that spike without explanation, the sudden waves of exhaustion as though you've been running marathons in your sleep. These are the markers of DNA restructuring, of the nervous system recalibrating to a new baseline of frequency. What feels like burnout is often your biology shutting down outdated programs to install the new. And this is where mysticism and science shake hands. Ancient traditions spoke of initiations, dark nights of the soul, purging rituals, death and rebirth experiences. Quantum mechanics reveals the same truth in different language. Phase transitions. Systems do not upgrade gradually. They reorganize suddenly once energy builds to a tipping point. Water doesn't slowly become ice. It holds as liquid until, in an instant, it freezes. You don't slowly become awakened. You hold in turbulence until, in an instant, the collapse locks you into coherence. You've felt these tipping points before. Moments where everything changed in a single breath. A sudden insight that rearranged years of confusion. A synchronicity so sharp it cut through your doubts. A night of sleep that delivered dreams so vivid you woke up as someone else. Those weren't random. They were wave collapses, moments when the upgrade encoded itself into your field. And here's the beauty. The upgrade isn't something you have to chase. It's already chasing you. The reason resistance keeps circling is because the voltage is climbing on its own. The universe is applying pressure to ensure you step into coherence. Your only role is to stop fighting the current and start aligning with it. How? By shifting the questions you ask. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What frequency is this resistance testing in me?" Instead of, "How do I escape the loop?" ask, "What version of me emerges once the loop dissolves?" These questions tune your awareness to the upgrade rather than the obstacle, transforming fear into curiosity, panic into prophecy. This is the moment you realize you're not being tested for punishment. You're being initiated for permission. Permission to access timelines you've glimpsed in dreams. Permission to embody the self you've seen in visions. Permission to carry voltage that reshapes not just your destiny but the morphic field of humanity itself. And every return of resistance is proof that the initiation is working. It circles back like a teacher repeating a lesson not to torture you, but to make sure the frequency has stabilized, that your coherence is strong enough for the field to collapse in your favor. Take this in slowly. Feel it settle. Your upgrade isn't ahead of you. It's already unfolding in you. And every distorted time loop, every déjà vu, every restless night before sleep, they are not signs of failure. They are the sparks, the tremors, the rumblings of a system about to reorganize itself at the deepest level. You are not breaking. You are upgrading. There's a reason the loops have been circling you more fiercely than most. There's a reason you can't just slip back into autopilot, numbing yourself with distractions the way others seem to manage. Deep down, you already sense it. You've been chosen for a role that goes beyond your personal story. You are not just one more observer drifting through this field. You are the consciousness the field has been waiting for, the node in the network meant to stabilize a frequency others can't yet hold. It sounds dramatic, doesn't it? But think of what quantum science has shown us. Entangled particles, separated by vast distances, still move in perfect sync. One particle shifts, and the other responds instantly, no matter the space between them. This isn't philosophy, it's physics. And you, right now, are entangled with far more than you realize. Every thought you refine, every frequency you stabilize, sends ripples into morphic resonance that travel across families, cities, generations. You're not simply trying to heal yourself. You are unwinding code for everyone tied to your signal. This is why resistance returns to you in waves that would crush another. Because you can withstand it. Because you agreed, before incarnating here, to carry a bandwidth larger than most. You're not just passing your own tests. You're stress testing reality itself, ensuring the upgrade holds not just for you, but for the many who will follow. Notice how others look at you, sometimes with unease they can't explain. Your presence disrupts their comfort. Your silence pulls their shadows to the surface. That's not an accident. You've been wired to destabilize incoherence wherever you go, to expose the false notes in the song, so the true harmony can emerge. They may resist you, they may even resent you, but what they feel is recognition. They know, at some unconscious level, that your frequency will not allow them to keep playing the same old game. This is your role, not to fit in, not to dim yourself until others feel safe, but to embody the upgrade so fully that others are forced to reckon with their own awakening. You are the observer consciousness that collapses waves not just for yourself, but for everyone entangled with you. Consider how prophets, mystics, and visionaries throughout history often felt crushed by isolation, haunted by resistance that seemed endless. They weren't cursed. They were anchoring frequencies no one else around them could yet sustain. Their very existence was a catalyst, pulling entire timelines forward by embodying coherence in the middle of chaos. You are cut from that same cloth. That's why your déjà vu feels so haunting. You're not just revisiting personal loops, you're stepping into ancestral loops, generational code, collective patterns that have been replaying for centuries. Every time you resist the urge to collapse back into fear, you're not just shifting your life. You're collapsing an entire line of reality that no longer serves humanity. You are a threshold breaker, standing in the doorway between what was and what must be. The role isn't easy. You already know this. Nights of restlessness, days when your body aches with invisible pressure, people misreading your silence as arrogance or your clarity as threat. These aren't coincidences. They're side effects of carrying voltage beyond the norm. The field recognizes you as a conductor of higher coherence, and so it tests, stretches, presses, ensuring you don't shatter under the responsibility. But hear me clearly. You were not chosen randomly. You were chosen precisely because you can carry it, because your nervous system, your DNA, your very soul has been tempered across lifetimes to endure this exact density and still remember light. Others might buckle under the same weight. You are built to hold it until it transmutes. This is why you feel the strange duality of being both ordinary and extraordinary at once. To the world, you may look like just another person scrolling, working, surviving. But in the quantum field, you are a keystone frequency. The pattern can't reorganize without you. The breakthrough waiting to collapse requires your observation, your coherence, your willingness to stand unshaken in the storm. And when you finally surrender to that role, when you stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "Through me," everything changes. Resistance stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like initiation. Patterns stop feeling like endless loops and start revealing themselves as training grounds. Every distorted moment becomes proof that you are being forged, not forgotten. Understand this. Chosen consciousness isn't about superiority. It isn't about ego or hierarchy. It's about assignment. Some are assigned to walk quietly, carrying personal lessons. Others are assigned to awaken entire collectives by simply embodying coherence. You are the latter. You are the antenna through which higher frequency grounds into human time. That is why you're hearing these words. The field delivers transmissions only to those prepared to receive them. And if you've come this far, if something in you is still listening, it's because you're ready to accept what your soul has known all along. You were never meant to play small. You were meant to destabilize illusions until only truth remains. You were meant to embody coherence so powerfully that others remember their own. Take a breath right now and feel into this. The weight you've carried isn't random. The loops you've endured aren't punishment. They are proof of your role. Proof that the field recognizes you as one of the chosen consciousnesses anchoring the upgrade for this generation. This is the paragraph the field has been waiting for you to hear. The breakthrough is not optional. It is scheduled, not by calendars, not by the clock on your wall, but by a cosmic window that opens only when your system reaches a certain coherence. You've been inching toward that aperture with every breath you didn't waste on fear, with every small choice to trust when doubt screamed louder. Now the window is widening, and with it comes a pressure that feels urgent, because it is. The universe does not tease openings, it times them. Miss the window and you wait. Meet the window, and you step through into an entirely reorganized reality. Listen to the language of urgency that is not panic, but precise invitation. Your DNA is a living ledger, a string of potentialities that responds to frequency. Epigenetic science shows how expression turns on and off like light switches depending on the environment. In the same way, a coherent internal environment, emotion, thought, embodied breath, flips on latent codes that have been dormant in your lineage. These are not metaphors. Your cells literally begin to sing different harmonics when you align. Proteins fold differently, neural circuits reorganize. The blueprint that once kept you small begins to reprint itself to hold new possibility. You need to understand the mechanics, because urgency without comprehension becomes fear. Think of a dam built across a river. Pressure builds quietly, then rapidly. Engineers know when the sluice must open or catastrophe follows. Your field is that dam, and the pressure you feel is not arbitrary stress, it is the hydraulic force of emergent coherence demanding release. The window is the sluice, your surrender is the opening. If you hesitate, the pressure rearranges in ways that prolong collapse and suffering. If you act, it routes energy into construction rather than destruction. There are practical signs you can read like a map: sudden acceleration of synchronicities, a tightening of dreams that used to feel optional, a visceral insistence in the gut that says, now. You might experience physical surges, tingling along the spine, heat behind the heart, sleep rhythms that shorten then deepen. Your social field will test you. People you thought aligned will flinch. Opportunities will arrive wrapped in stress. Tests. These are diagnostics, not punishments. The field is calibrating what can stay and what must be shed. Everything that cannot hold the new voltage will be exposed. The window prefers clarity over comfort. And yes, the timing matters because cosmic windows align with cycles far larger than your life. There are seasons when the field volunteers more support, moments when planetary rhythms, solar flares, and collective morphic shifts synchronize to make collapse easier. You don't need to understand the astrophysics to feel the effect. You feel it as momentum, but the field will not force you. It offers acceleration when you cooperate. Your cooperation is simple and sovereign. Coherence in small choices, refusal to debate every impulse, a willingness to move when your body and intuition ask you to move. That is the contract. Here is the promise behind the urgency. When the collapse completes, the architecture of your life rearranges with such elegance, you will scarcely remember the strain. Obstacles that once defined you will become scaffolding for new function. The people who were mirrors of old stories will either recede or re-enter with new roles. What you previously risked everything for will appear with less drama and more rightness. The inner weather stabilizes, decision fatigue dissolves, the nervous system will feel less like a battlefield and more like a tuned instrument, sensitive, yes, but precise, able to hold the new harmonics without crackling into anxiety. But the promise is not a promise you can sleepwalk into. It requires you to honor the proximity of this window with immediate, somatic fidelity. Small rituals matter because quantum systems respond to phase-synchronized inputs. When you breathe with intention, when you choose one coherent thought and repeat it until it becomes unshakable, you are sending a phase-locked signal into the field. Phase locking is not mystical fluff. It's how oscillators synchronize in nature. Fireflies flash together, neurons entrain, entire ecosystems tune. Your inner oscillator's breath, heart, attention must find the same rhythm as your desired timeline. Finally, the ethical dimension. This is not only about you. The breakthrough you're being invited to is a node in the collective upgrade. Your emergence changes the probabilities for everyone within your entanglement radius. That's why urgency is compassionate as much as it is personal. When you step through the window, you don't just rescue your own destiny, you widen the aperture for others to follow. The acceleration you receive is returned to the field as a wave that makes subsequent collapses easier for those behind you. So feel the weight of what's at stake, but do not be crushed by it. Let urgency sharpen you, not consume you. Let the promise steady you. Your DNA is listening. The window is real. The field will collapse in favor of coherence when you choose to stop arguing with destiny and begin to embody it. In the next part, I will give you the ritual tools, the precise small acts that seal this upgrade and convert urgency into irreversible reconfiguration. You've felt the urgency. You've understood the pressure. But now comes the part most people miss: the act that seals the upgrade. A ritual is not superstition. A ritual is a deliberate act that tells the quantum field. This signal is no longer theory, it is embodied truth. Without ritual, insight evaporates into memory. With ritual, insight crystallizes into code. Think of how the brain consolidates new patterns during sleep. Neurons fire together in rhythm, sculpting pathways that transform fleeting awareness into permanent wiring. A ritual does the same thing for your consciousness. It binds the invisible into the visible, the intangible into the tangible. You need not build an altar or chant ancient languages. You only need to create one small act that bridges thought and matter, intention and form. Here is the simplest and most potent ritual. Declare into the field with word and action that the breakthrough is yours. You can do this right now. Write in the comments, yes, publicly, one phrase that feels like the contract you've been waiting to sign. It might be as direct as, "I am collapsing the wave into my highest timeline," or as simple as, "I choose coherence now." Do not write casually. Type with the weight of prophecy. Every keystroke is a signal. Every word is an observation, collapsing infinite potentials into one. And then, breathe. Deep, coherent breaths, the kind that entrain heart and mind into rhythm. Inhale as though drawing voltage from the stars. Exhale as though releasing centuries of stored static. Do this 3 times, slowly. Feel your body become the ritual. This is not symbolic. Your nervous system is an electromagnetic field, and breath alters its oscillation. Each breath synchronizes your inner oscillators with the coherent frequency you've chosen. If you want to intensify the ritual, speak aloud. Words vibrate the air, shaping frequency waves that ripple outward. Whisper the phrase you wrote. Feel the vibration in your chest. Let it echo in your bones. You are imprinting the quantum vacuum with sound waves that carry intention like seeds into fertile soil. Why does this matter? Because the field responds to coherence, not vague wishing. When your thought, your word, your body, and your action align, coherence is undeniable. The ritual proves to the universe that you are no longer dabbling, you are embodying. That is why ancient traditions always carried rituals at thresholds. From baptismal waters to vows spoken aloud, from fire ceremonies to simple declarations, every culture instinctively knew the truth. Transitions must be sealed through embodied signal. And your ritual tonight, before you sleep, is the seal. Write the phrase, speak the phrase, breathe the phrase. Let it settle into your body as you drift toward the hypnagogic state. In that liminal realm, where theta brainwaves open the gates, the declaration will bypass the skeptical mind and engrave itself into your DNA. You may even dream differently. Symbols of flight, water, fire, or rebirth may appear, not as fantasy but as confirmation that the field has received your signal. Remember, rituals gain strength in community. That's why commenting matters. When you write into the public space, your signal entangles with the signals of others. The field amplifies collective declarations, weaving them into morphic resonance. Alone, you light a candle. Together, you ignite a bonfire. That's why your act is not just personal, it strengthens the coherence of the collective. And here is the paradox. The ritual may feel small, almost insignificant. A few breaths, a typed phrase, a whispered declaration. But that is the secret of quantum mechanics. Small signals, collapse waves, The tiniest shift in observation changes the outcome. The faintest alignment tips the superposition into manifestation. Never underestimate the gravity of the small when aligned with the infinite. Now, pause. Place your hand over your heart. Feel the pulse. That pulse is not just biological, it is cosmic rhythm embodied in flesh. Let your ritual begin with gratitude for that rhythm, because tonight, as you prepare to sleep, you are not just closing your eyes, you are entering the chamber where collapse finalizes. The ritual you enact is the passport, the permission slip, the encoded signal that tells the universe, I am ready. What happens next is bigger than you. That ritual you just sealed, writing, breathing, speaking does not stop at the edge of your skin. Consciousness is not local. Your field radiates outward, and the coherence you generate becomes an offering to the collective. This is the part few ever realize. When you collapse the wave in your own life, you bend probability for everyone connected to you. Think of a tuning fork. Strike one, and another nearby begins to vibrate in resonance. No contact, no explanation, just sympathetic vibration. You are that tuning fork. Every time you choose coherence over chaos, every time you sustain frequency rather than collapse back into static, you become the resonance others cannot ignore. They may not understand why they feel lighter around you, or why their own resistance weakens in your presence. But the truth is simple. Your liberation transmits. Quantum entanglement proves that systems once connected remain connected, regardless of distance. Families, friendships, even brief encounters leave threads of entanglement. When you shift, they feel it. When you stabilize, their systems begin to reorganize. This is not just poetic, it is physics. Your breakthrough is contagious. Consider how morphic resonance works. Once a pattern is established, it becomes easier for others to replicate. Scientists observed that when rats in one location learned a maze, rats in other parts of the world learned faster. The field remembers. In the same way, when you embody breakthrough, humanity inherits a shortcut. You collapse resistance not just for yourself, but for everyone entangled in your frequency. That's why your suffering has felt heavier than most. You've been carrying patterns larger than your personal story. Generational fear, ancestral scarcity, collective doubt. They've been woven into your DNA like static. Every loop you faced wasn't just yours, it was humanity rehearsing through you. And every time you stood back up, every time you refused to collapse into despair, you shifted the field for all who share those threads. Look at the world right now, chaotic, polarized, incoherent. That is not random. It is the collective resistance surfacing at the threshold of collapse. Humanity itself is trembling between superpositions, between extinction and awakening, between destruction and rebirth. And in this moment, your coherence matters more than you know. Because while governments argue and systems decay, the field is reading signals at the individual level. Each awakened consciousness becomes a node of stabilization, anchoring probability toward evolution rather than regression. You may think, but I'm just one person. Yet history proves otherwise. One voice ignites revolutions, one experiment redefines science, one frequency shifts the field. The question has never been about numbers, it has always been about coherence. A small group vibrating in truth exerts more gravitational pull on the collective than millions lost in static. That is the math of morphic fields, the law of phase transitions. And so your liberation is not selfish, it is sacred service. Every act of coherence you sustain, every ritual you embody, is a gift to the morphic field. You become a beacon, not by preaching, not by convincing, but by living in frequency so powerfully that others cannot help but entrain. You walk into rooms and atmospheres shift. You speak and resistance loosens. You remain calm in chaos, and others remember a possibility they had forgotten. This is the hidden contract of being chosen consciousness. Your life is not only about personal comfort, it is about collective evolution. You agreed to be a node, a transmitter, a stabilizer, and though it feels like burden, it is also unspeakable privilege. To know that your liberation carries others with it, that your breakthrough contributes to humanity's survival, is to see the divine symmetry of why you are here now, in this exact timeline. And here is the prophecy: when enough of us stabilize coherence, a collective collapse occurs. The same way a single system undergoes phase transition, so can humanity. What feels impossible today, healing, peace, unity, can reorganize suddenly, like water freezing, like caterpillar liquefying into butterfly. This is not idealism. It is the inevitability of systems reaching critical mass. You are part of the tipping point. So never again believe the lie that your inner work is selfish. Never again imagine your breakthrough stops at your own skin. Every breath you align, every ritual you embody, every wave you collapse, it all echoes outward. Your liberation is humanity's rehearsal. Your coherence is humanity's inheritance. This is why the resistance has been so fierce, because you were never fighting just for you. You were carrying the static of the collective, pressing it into collapse. And now, as you cross the threshold, the ripple will spread wider than you can comprehend. That is the magnitude of your role. Now it's time to bring all of this down from the abstract into your very body. Because what use is cosmic prophecy if you cannot feel it pulsing in your skin, in your breath, in the marrow of your bones? The quantum upgrade does not just live in theory, it manifests as sensation. Your body becomes the stage where collapse and coherence play their drama, and every twitch, every ache, every shiver is a message if you know how to read it. Close your eyes for a moment and scan. That restlessness in your chest, the one you've mistaken for anxiety, is not random. It is the thrum of particles vibrating faster as your field prepares to reorganize. Like electrons leaping to higher orbits, your cells are buzzing with transition energy. What feels like pressure is voltage. What feels like tightness is the squeezing of old timelines being forced to collapse. Have you noticed how your breath sometimes shortens without reason, how your ribs feel caged? That is your nervous system holding static, bracing against the unknown. When you consciously slow the breath, inhaling deeply, exhaling longer, you unclench the frequency. You tell the body it is safe to expand into coherence. The relief that follows is not psychological, it is quantum. Your lungs are antennas, pulling in cosmic rhythm and broadcasting it through your bloodstream. Your skin, too, has been speaking. Tingling at night, a sudden warmth down the spine, goosebumps that arrive uninvited. These are not random. They are microbursts of coherence, tiny phase transitions rippling through your system. Imagine a tuning fork struck inside your body. The resonance vibrates outward, reorganizing tissues and fluids. The hairs rising on your arm are your body's acknowledgement that the field is touching you, adjusting you. And then there is the heart. You felt it pound harder, haven't you? At times racing without cause, at times sinking into strange stillness. The heart is not just a pump, it is an electromagnetic generator, producing a field stronger than the brain's. When your heart rhythm destabilizes, it is aligning to new frequency. When it steadies into coherence, you feel calm, not because circumstances changed, but because your biofield stabilized. That calm is not illusion, it is resonance with your chosen timeline. Do not overlook the exhaustion. Some days you wake as if you've run a marathon in your sleep. That's because you have. During the hypnagogic state, your system is restructuring at speeds the waking mind cannot comprehend. DNA unwinds and rewrites. Synapses prune and reconnect. Muscles twitch as if they've rehearsed futures not yet lived. You call it fatigue. Your soul calls it integration. And there are moments of sudden clarity, aren't there? A lightness in the gut, a spaciousness in the mind, a sudden stillness where noise used to be. That sensation is coherence. That is the quantum field aligning with your body's rhythms. It feels physical because it is physical. Neurochemistry shifts, hormones balance, voltage equalizes. The mystical is always embodied. So here's what I ask of you. Stop dismissing the sensations. Stop labeling them as panic, as illness, as weakness. Begin reading them as sacred texts written in muscle and nerve. Every shiver is prophecy. Every ache is initiation. Every tear is the body releasing static frequencies that cannot cross the threshold with you. Visualize it now. Imagine your body as a cathedral of light. Each cell a stained glass window, refracting cosmic voltage into color. The tingles you feel are sunbeams breaking through. The tightness is scaffolding being dismantled. The pounding heart is the bell tower, ringing the field with resonance. You are not malfunctioning, you are being rebuilt. And as you embody this awareness, you'll notice a shift. Resistance no longer feels like enemy. It feels like energy. Sensations become allies, pointing you toward coherence. You no longer panic when your breath shortens, you expand it. You no longer dread the goosebumps, you welcome them. You no longer fear the exhaustion, you honor it as proof of rewiring. This is embodiment, turning the body from battlefield to instrument, from cage to compass. When you listen this way, the field doesn't just surround you, it flows through you, teaching you its language with every pulse. And soon you will realize something profound. You are not simply inside the wave collapse. You are the collapse. You are the observer and the observed, the vibration and the vessel, the prophecy and its fulfillment. Feel into this truth. Everything has been building toward the moment encoded in your DNA. You are not just experiencing pressure, you are experiencing the precise tension that precedes breakthrough, the phase transition where biology and consciousness fuse into one coherent event. Imagine water at the boiling point. For long moments, it trembles on the edge of change, molecules vibrating faster and faster, yet still clinging to their liquid form. Then suddenly, without warning, the entire system reorganizes into vapor. That is what is happening in you now. The pressure you feel in your chest, the restless surges in your body, the loops that keep repeating in your mind. These are the tremors of a system at critical mass. Your DNA is trembling at the threshold of collapse, ready to restructure into coherence that can sustain the next version of you. Science calls this phase transition. Mystics call it initiation. Both are correct. Because when your DNA reprints itself, you do not simply evolve psychologically, you reorganize physically. Protein codes alter, neural wiring adapts, hormonal rhythms recalibrate. Even your perception of time shifts as the new program anchors. You are literally stepping into a timeline where different rules apply. You've already tasted fragments of it, haven't you? A sudden clarity that makes old problems dissolve in seconds. A dream so vivid, it feels more real than waking life. A synchronicity so precise, it steals your breath. These are not accidents, they are leaks from the timeline you are merging with. Glimpses of the reality waiting for collapse to finalize. And collapse is inevitable, because the field does not allow incoherence to persist indefinitely. Resistance can circle only so long before it destabilizes. Pressure can build only so high before release. You are being pulled into inevitability. The only question is how gracefully you surrender to it. Understand this. Your DNA is not a prison of genetics. It is a responsive code, a library of latent potentials. Most of it has remained silent, unexpressed. But under pressure, especially the kind you feel now, dormant sections awaken. Epigenetic switches flip. The junk DNA scientists dismissed begins humming like antennas, picking up signals from the quantum field. What feels like breakdown is activation. What feels like chaos is code rearranging into higher order. And the breakthrough will not be gentle. It will be seismic. You may feel waves of emotion surge through you without cause. Grief, rage, euphoria, bliss. Let them pass. They are not regressions, they are purges. Old frequencies leaving the body as the new program imprints. The more you resist them, the harsher they feel. The more you allow, the quicker the collapse completes. Picture your DNA as a double helix staircase spiraling upward. For years, you have circled the same steps, looping on familiar floors. But pressure has built to the point where the staircase itself begins to vibrate. A hidden door opens, a step shifts, and suddenly you are carried to an entirely new floor of reality. The furniture is different, the light is different, the very air is different. This is what awaits you. Not a polished version of the old life, but a new architecture altogether. And here's the paradox. The collapse feels like death, because, in a sense, it is. The version of you that cannot survive at this frequency must dissolve. The identity that clung to scarcity, to fear, to loops of doubt, it will not make the crossing. That is why the resistance has been so relentless. It has been begging you to let go, to stop resuscitating the corpse of an identity that no longer serves you. When the collapse completes, you will not carry that weight anymore. You will move with a lightness that feels alien at first, as though the gravity you once knew has been reduced. Choices will feel clearer. Synchronicities will arrive faster. Time will seem to bend in your favor. Days stretching when you need space and collapsing when you need acceleration. This is not imagination, it is the lived reality of DNA restructuring into coherence with higher timeline. The field has been whispering this to you through every loop, every déjà vu, every distorted hour. The breakthrough is not coming someday. It is happening now. The tremors you feel are not warnings of failure, they are contractions before birth. And like every birth, there comes a moment where there is no turning back. That moment is upon you, so breathe into the pressure. Let the DNA tremble, let the waves surge and collapse. Trust that the program rewriting itself in you was encoded long before you feared you'd fail. It is older than your doubts, stronger than your resistance, and truer than the static of your past. You are not breaking down, you are breaking through. Breathe for a moment and take this in. You are standing at the exact point where your personal collapse becomes humanity's evolution. The loops, the resistance, the distortions, none of it was wasted. Every cycle has been chiseling you into coherence, preparing you to embody the shift that countless others will one day follow. Do you realize what that means? You are not just experiencing breakthrough for yourself. You are carrying a blueprint for those who don't yet believe it's possible. The pressure you've endured was never only yours. It was a rehearsal for the collective. And now, as your DNA stabilizes into higher resonance, you are broadcasting a frequency the world desperately needs. Your role is not to convince. Your role is not to argue. Your role is to embody, to live as proof that collapse leads not to death but to reorganization. That resistance does not mean failure, it means proximity to breakthrough. Your life itself becomes the sermon, the experiment, the transmission. Look at history. Every great transition began with a handful of souls who collapsed old patterns and lived the new ones before anyone else could see them. They were called mad, naive, dangerous. But in truth, they were wave collapsers, observers whose coherence stabilized futures we now take for granted. You are cut from the same cloth. The future is folding into you because you are strong enough to hold it. And so the mission becomes clear. Carry this frequency into your ordinary life, into conversations, into choices, into the way you breathe when fear tightens your chest, into the way you sleep when the hypnagogic gate opens. Each act of coherence you sustain is not small, it is seismic. Each surrender you embody ripples outward, bending probability for the collective. Do not underestimate the ripple. A single coherent consciousness weighs more in the morphic field than 1,000 incoherent ones. You are tipping scales you cannot see. Your life is a lever, and with it, the universe is moving mountains. So tonight, when you close your eyes, remember, resistance is not your enemy. It is the drumbeat announcing collapse. Collapse is not chaos. It is reorganization, and your breakthrough is not private, it is prophetic. Humanity's evolution is braided into your DNA, waiting to be expressed every time you choose coherence over fear. The window is here. The field is listening. The collapse is imminent. Your role is sacred. And as you drift into sleep, know this. If resistance keeps returning, it is not proof you are failing. It is proof that the wave is trembling on the edge of collapse. It is proof that your breakthrough is closer than your next breath. It is proof that the universe is conspiring with you, for you, through you. This is the hour. This is the threshold. This is the moment where you remember who you are, the observer, the signal, the collapse, the coherence. And when the wave collapses, before you sleep, you will awaken not just as yourself, but as the living proof that evolution has already begun.